speaker, Dr. Tony Alessandra, helps companies, relationships, and the bottom line.
Hey, I like it. He moves around the stage. It looks like he's talking to people. He's looking people in the eye. He's communicating quite well.
He was born in Hell's Kitchen, New York City, and raised himself from street fighter to university professor through sheer determination.
I think it's a lot of useful information.
Very interesting, captivating.
Excellent. Very good.
Tony earned his MBA from the University of Connecticut and his PhD in marketing from Georgia State University. He was inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame in 1985 and is a member of the Speakers Roundtable, a group of 20 of the world's top professional speakers.
He's very interactive with the audience. He really makes you feel a part of his stories.
Dr. Alessandra is a widely published author with 14 books translated into 11 foreign languages, including Collaborative Selling, Communicating at Work, People Smart, and several others.
Gets a point across, throws in some humor. It's good.
I'm walking out with a lot of tools.
He is featured in over 50 audio and video training programs by well-known production houses like Nightingale Conant and Walt Disney. Tony Alessandra was recognized by Meetings and Conventions magazine as one of America's most electrifying speakers.
His delivery is just awesome, and it really makes worth a wonderful seminar.
Presenting his program, The Platinum Rule, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Tony Alessandra. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. How many of you in your dealings with other people have ever had a personality conflict? Can I see your hands? Personality conflict? All right, and I guess the rest of you don't deal with people, right? Come on, all of us, whether we admit it or not, we've all had the misfortune of not being able to connect with another person, not able to create that all-important meeting of the minds, which is so crucial in selling. How many of you sell? Can I see your hands? What's the very first thing you have to sell? Yourself. If you can't do that, it makes everything else that much more difficult. But if you can connect with somebody, if you can build rapport, if you can get them to like you and ultimately trust you, it makes the selling process that much easier and quicker. Agreed? I believe that you can create a lot more rapport with people and a lot less tension with them based on how well you practice the golden rule. Practice it appropriately, you're going to create a lot more rapport with people. Inappropriately, you're going to create some conflict. Now, before I go any further, let's make sure that we're all listening from the same perspective. What is the golden rule? Anybody? The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I believe in that. I practice it. I live it. I breathe it, especially when it comes to values, ethics, honesty, consideration. However, when it comes to interpersonal communication, the golden rule can, and frequently does, backfire. Now, why? Well, the way it is stated, if you practice the golden rule verbatim, you would basically treat other people the way you would like to be treated. Does that make sense? The problem is, do other people want to be treated the same way you do? No. Probably not. Probably not at all. I mean, I learned that firsthand when I moved from New York City to San Diego, California. When I moved to San Diego, I practiced the golden rule. I treated everybody in San Diego as if they were New Yorkers. Do you see a potential problem here? Came on too strong, too fast, too in your face, too aggressive. Even when I asked people to do things that under any other circumstance they would do. It was reasonable, it was correct, they would do it. But it wasn't what I was asking that irritated people. It was how I was asking. It was my approach, it was my demeanor. And as a result, they dug in their heels and they decided not to budge. Not because of what I was asking, but how I was asking. Now, I believe that what we need to do is practice the true spirit, the true intent of the golden rule. And I call that the platinum rule. The platinum rule, very simply stated, is do unto others the way they want to be done unto. Or treat people the way they want to be treated. Does that make sense? Basically, what I'm asking is for you to talk to people in ways that make it easy for them to listen to you. If you manage or lead people, what we need to do is manage and lead people in a way that internally motivates them to want to follow. And I also believe that you need to sell people the way they're comfortable buying, not necessarily the way you're comfortable selling. This concept is called adaptability. Adaptability is your ability to change your approach, to change your strategy, depending on the situation of the person you're dealing with. That is adaptability. You look at the top salespeople across the board, and they have some level, typically a high level, of adaptability. Adaptability is being able to go into an account and adjusting your approach based on the information you pick up about that person. If you didn't adjust your approach, why do we need salespeople? I mean, we could just send out a video or let them see a presentation over an internet, because it would be the same to everybody. One of the beautiful aspects of face-to-face selling is that you can go in, you can size up a situation, you can determine needs, you can present solutions, different solutions, customer by customer by customer, based on differing needs, but more importantly, you can adjust your approach, the how you sell, based on the customer's style, their personality, their behavior. So, what I want to do is share with you a concept that I'm sure every single person in this room has been exposed to a minimum of one time, somewhere in your life. Maybe a different way. But how many of you, second, third time, through a book, a movie, an audio learning program, second or third time through, you heard or saw things that you totally missed first or second time through? Has that ever happened? Same thing's going to happen this evening. Whether you've been exposed to this concept once, twice, 5 times, it doesn't matter. I guarantee you're going to walk out of here tonight with some new insights, some new strategies, some new techniques that will help you connect with people quicker, deeper, and longer lasting. And by the way, it is not just for sales. I know everybody's in here hoping to pick up some tips and tools and techniques for selling. But when it comes to relationships, it's not just the buyer-seller relationship that I'd like you to focus on tonight. It goes way beyond that. If you work with other people and there's any form of collaboration or team selling, this will help you. How many of you are married? This will help you. In fact, many of you are going to say to yourself, I wish my spouse was here. He or she should be listening to this. How many of you have children? This will help. There's no question about it. How many of you have a manager that you report to? This will help. It is across the board. So don't just listen to it from one perspective. It will help you in all aspects, all relationships. Now, let me tell you this. People will not tell you how to sell them. That would make it too easy, wouldn't it? Hey, listen, before you give me your sales presentation, let me tell you the best way to approach me, and let me tell you what works best with me to close a sale. Wow, would I love that, right? Doesn't work that way, does it? They won't tell you how to sell them, but they will show you. And all I'm asking you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is open your eyes and ears and watch the signals that people send you. Now, when I say watch the signals, I'm not going to talk about listening per se, but I think it's crucial right here. When two people communicate face-to-face, they deliver the message on 3 channels consecutively, and then you hear the message on 3 channels consecutively. I'm using all 3 channels right now. Channels are very easy to remember because they all begin with V. There's the verbal channel, there's the vocal channel, there's the visual channel. Verbal, vocal, visual. Let me define them. The verbal channel. If we recorded this program and had it transcribed and gave you a typed transcript, That would be the verbal part of my message. The words and the words alone. Now, if we recorded this and everybody got an audio tape, now you would get the verbal and the vocal. And the vocal is the inflection, the intonation, the pace, the pitch, the pauses, the volume, the speed that can actually enhance or change the meaning of the actual words. So that's the vocal. Now, if we were recording this on video, which actually we are, and you can actually see what's going on, you would get the verbal, the vocal, and the visual. Now, all communications experts say that when you add all three, verbal, vocal, and visual, you get 100% of the meaning of a message. And depending on the type of communication that's taking place, sometimes the verbal is more important than the other two. Sometimes it's the vocal, and more often than you can imagine, it's the visual. All three equal 100% of a message. If you miss any of them, I guarantee you, you are missing some of the meaning of the message. If you only focus on the words, the verbal, you may get the content, but not necessarily the intent. Verbal, vocal, visual. Let's talk a little bit about visual. I'm looking at the audience. It looks like a rather young audience, but I want to take you back to 1960. 1960, famous debate, Nixon versus Kennedy. Has anybody heard about that debate? How many people know about that 1960 debate? That was a turning point in that election. That was a dramatic debate because something interesting happened at the debate and afterwards. Something was discovered, and it focused on visual. Here's what happened. After that debate, the pollsters went out, and they asked the American public who won. Whole group of people said Nixon won the debate by a little. Another whole group of people said Kennedy won it by a lot. So they figured, hey, Republicans and Democrats, wrong. North and South, wrong. Conservative, liberal, wrong. It wasn't any of that. And many of you know what it was. The people who said Nixon won the debate listened to it on radio. The people who said Kennedy won watched it on TV. They watched it on TV. Now, between radio and television, was the verbal the same or different? Was the vocal the same or different? So the only difference was the visual. How could the visual have that much impact on somebody's impression of who won or lost? I'll tell you how. If you ever get the opportunity, go to a library, ask them if they can get you a copy of the 1960 debate, Nixon and Kennedy. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to totally turn off the volume. Just watch the picture. And it will be very apparent to you why people voted for Kennedy. There was such a stark difference in the message each person sent just by their body language. Dramatic. How about vocal? Do you think you can change things up, mix things up with vocal? I mean, I can say to somebody, hey, nice jacket. Right? You get one impression. I can use the exact same words and say, hey, nice jacket. Same exact words. Very different meaning, wasn't it? Take a single word like oh. In and of itself, it has no meaning. Oh only takes on a meaning as you say it. Now watch how you can change the meaning of that word simply through inflection. I'd like you to say the word oh to convey I understand. Oh. I don't understand. Oh. Now notice it's the same word, different inflection, exact opposite meanings. So if you don't say the right inflection, somebody can misinterpret the meaning. Say oh to convey surprise, disappointment, disgust, affection. Hey, wait a second. That was pleasure. Close enough, but you see you can get in trouble on that one. All right? So, what I'm asking you to do is simply open your eyes and ears. Watch the signals people send you. Verbal, vocal, visual. I'm going to ask you to make 2 simple decisions about people. All right, decision number 1. Is the person that I'm dealing with exhibiting through their verbal, vocal, visual behavior more open or guarded behavior? Now, how do you tell the difference? Guarded people, and I'd like to know if you know people who fit this. Guarded people do not, I repeat, they do not show or share their feelings and thoughts readily or willingly. In other words, they play their cards how? Close to the vest. They're hard to read. They have controlled body language and facial expressions to the extreme. We say they have what kind of a face? Poker face, more stoic. Whatever they are feeling or thinking inside stays inside. They share information only on a need-to-know basis. These are the type of people that when they get together with you, they do not like much, if any, social talk, chit-chat, schmoozing, whatever you want to call it. What do they want to do? Get right down to business. Listen, I have 10 minutes. What do you have? They make decisions primarily based on what? Facts, logic, numbers, data, documentation. Put it in writing. How many of you know somebody like that? All right? I have a friend like this. This guy is off the chart. Off the chart. This guy is so bottom line, so no nonsense, so cut to the chase. I remember the first time he called my home, and my wife Sue answered the phone. She answers. All he says to her is this: Tony. That was it. That was it. So, I mean, she's got a lot on the ball. She figured it was for me, so she gives me the phone. I talked to him. It was a short phone call, as you can imagine. I hang up. She said, who was that? I said, that was Dennis. Why? She said, I cannot believe how rude, and she went on about this. I said, Sue, that's Dennis. You take him, you leave him. That's just him. I've accepted it. She said, no, you're missing something here, Tony. And let me tell you what you're missing. You know, whether he's like that or not doesn't matter to me. But you are known as a relationship and communication expert. And you have a friend like this. What does that say about the effectiveness of your techniques? Whoa, yeah. Now she's talking my language. I said, I never thought about it that way. She said, Tony, I got to tell you, you got to make a decision. You either have to take him under your wing, coach him, be his mentor, show people through him how well your concepts work, or cut him loose. I said, well, I'm not going to cut him loose, so I'll take the challenge. So I worked 3 months with this guy. Now, I don't know how many of you have a story, an example in your life that you are just incredibly proud of. Dennis is mine. I worked with this guy. It was a challenge. I mean, she challenged me. It was like somebody pulling out that glove and smacking me across the face. I worked with him 3 months. And talk about one of the most remarkable turnarounds. He calls my house. My wife answers. He said, Sue, Dennis, Tony, 300% improvement. You can't get better than that. Unbelievable. This stuff works. At the other end, we have the open people. Open people readily, willingly show and share their feelings and thoughts, whether you want to know them or not. Any subject, anywhere, anytime, fair game. These are the people, they wear their hearts on their sleeves. You could read them like a book. Whatever they're feeling or thinking inside, you see outside. Just the way they are. They also have a tendency during conversation to digress a lot. You know, people like that. Oh, that reminds me. And they jump around. What was I talking about? What was the question? They go off on all these tangents. It's been said about open people that their thoughts are like gumballs. They just fall to the tongue and roll out. Not unusual to leave a conversation with an open person and say to yourself, wow, woo! What did we talk about? Because they're jumping all over the place. And they make decisions primarily based on what? Emotion, feeling, intuition. So we have open people, we have guarded people. Question is, where are you? Where would you put yourself on that scale? Most of the time, with most people, pick a number. And I know some of you are saying, Tony, but should I pick the number I am at work or the number I am at home? Because I have a different number at work versus at home. How many of you find yourselves in that situation? One number at work and another at home. How many of you? All right, we call that schizophrenic. Well, not really. You notice I say this is the behavioral style grid. You don't see it saying personality style grid. It's behavioral style. And here's why. Personality is more set in stone than behavior. Behavior you can change. I can decide right now to behave one way with you and an hour later behave a totally different way with you. I can behave one way with you right now and I can behave a totally different way with you now. So I can change and control my behavior like that. That's called adaptability. So the point is, you can have a different number at work or at home. If you ask me, Tony, what number are you? I would say, well, work or home. You say work. And I'd say, well, with my employees or with my customers, because it's a different number. You say, well, how about at home? I say, well, at home, are you talking about the number I am with my wife or my kids? You say, well, your kids. I say, well, which one? I have 4 kids, 4 children, and as fate would have it, one of each of those 4 colors. It is truly amazing. So pick a number that you believe reflects your pattern most of the time with most people, and pick a particular role. Your role as a salesperson, your role within the office with your colleagues, your role at home as a spouse, your role as a parent. Pick a role. I would say in this particular setting, pick your role as a salesperson in the work environment. Okay? Pick a number. Let's go to the next scale. Direct or indirect? How do we tell the difference? Directness is a measure of pace and a measure of assertiveness. So indirect people are slower paced. Direct people are faster paced. Now when I say slower and faster, I'm talking about the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they make decisions, the way they do things in general. Indirect people tend to be slower. Direct people tend to be faster. Indirect people tend to be less assertive. Direct people, more assertive. Indirect people tend to be more patient. Direct people, impatient. When it comes to risks, decisions, or a change, indirect people approach all 3 more slowly, cautiously, and methodically. Because indirect people have a tremendous inner driving need not to be wrong. And as a result, they check, they double check. They think about it, they sleep on it. They do their homework, their research, their due diligence, all because they don't want to be wrong. How many of you have sold somebody like that, right? Direct people, risks, decisions, change, they approach all 3 more quickly, decisively, spontaneously. Because their inner driving need is to accomplish and achieve as much as possible, get it over with, what's next? Now, when the 2 work together and they practice the golden rule, can you see a problem? Because the indirect person is wanting to slow things down. Wait a second. We've got to do this just right. The direct person wants to speed things up. Hey, come on, I got a lot to do. It's good enough. Whenever there is conflict between quantity and quality, who would go which way? Indirect people, quality. Fewer things, do them perfect. The direct people, quantity. Let's do as much as we can, as good as we can. It doesn't have to be perfect. How many of you believe that you are married to somebody who is at the other end? I am. What end would you put me at? Direct, there's no question about that. Don't even pause on that one. My wife's indirect. And it is amazing how things get done around the house. She is a perfectionist about things. And me, yeah, you know, it's in the right, you know. So, you know, it's near the laundry basket. What does it matter? You know, it's on the floor. You know it belongs in there. I got to tell you, hanging pictures is the worst thing with her. Because she'll say, Tony, so she comes home one day with like 7 pictures, you know, pieces of art. What are you doing with all this? She said, Tony, no, our walls are too bare. I want to put 2 over there, 1 here, and 2 there, and another one over. And she, you know, she's going through this thing. I said, I don't see any reason why we have to have more stuff on the wall. It looks okay to me. She says, no, we got to do this. She says, I have to run back to the store and pick up some food for tonight. She comes home, and I am so proud. I said, Sue, come over. You're not going to believe this. She said, what? I said, look, I put all 7 up. She said, Tony, what did you do? I said, I put them up. She said, you did it all wrong. I said, Sue, you said 2 there, 1 there, 1 there, 2 there. I put them just where you wanted. She said, no, and they're crooked, too. I said, they are not crooked. No way. And we get into this whole thing about if it's crooked. She goes in, pulls out one of these, what do they call them? The levels. All right? So a little piece of the bubble's outside of the line. I mean, just a little piece. I thought it was pretty good getting that close without using a level. And she said, look, it's not, and we have to go through every single one, do these. It took a whole day. Now, how could something like this take a whole day? It took me 15 minutes to put 7 up. But that's what happens. That's what happens. When it comes to rules, indirect people follow rules according to the letter of the law. Direct people follow rules according to the spirit of their interpretation. How about gray areas? When there's a gray area, it doesn't quite say whether you can or you can't. Whenever an indirect person comes across a gray area, they usually go to somebody in authority and ask permission. You know, it doesn't say whether I can do this or not. This is what I'd like to do. Is it okay? They're looking for the blessing. Is it okay? Can I do it? Whereas the direct person, when they find a gray area, which of course they call their window of opportunity, their attitude is, I'm not going to ask. If I ask and I hear no, I can't do it. If I don't ask, I didn't hear no, could be yes. I'm just going to go do it. My philosophy is this. It's easier to beg forgiveness than it is to seek permission. So now the question becomes, what letter would you pick for yourself? So what I'd like you to do is pick a letter for yourself that you believe reflects your pattern of behavior most of the time with most people. So pick a letter. Does everybody have a letter and a number? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is build the model. I have 3 objectives in this section of the program. 3 objectives. Number 1, how do you size up somebody through the simple process of elimination? 2 decisions, ladies and gentlemen. Is the person more open or guarded? Process of elimination. Is the person more direct or indirect? Process of elimination. Second objective, understanding the 4 basic patterns of behavior. What are they? How do they act? What's their likes, dislikes, fears, goals, the ways they make decisions, etc. And then the third and most critical, once you can size somebody up, understand their style, what do you do about it? And this is where you have sort of the golden key. Because I guarantee you, and I've taught this concept. This year, actually, is 30 years that I've been teaching, researching, and writing about this concept. And as you can imagine, in 30 years, I have thousands of testimonial letters. And I can tell you, in terms of sales management, students in school getting better grades, marriages being improved or saved, it works. But it only works if you take it out of here and use it. So Let's see how this audience divides among the four basic styles. How many of you chose as your number a 1 or a 2, your letter, a C or a D? Can I see your hands, please? 1 or a 2 combined with a C or a D. Your style is what we call the director. I'll tell you a little bit about yourself in a second. Directors. How many of you chose as your number a 3 or a 4, but a C or a D as your letter? Let me see your hands. Socializers, party on! How about a 3 or a 4, but an A or a B? Can I see your hands, please? Our relators. Our relators. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. And finally, a 1 or a 2 combined with an A or a B. Can I see your hands, please? Our thinkers. Now, they raise their hands a little slower because all the facts are not in yet. They're still analyzing this. Jury's out on this one. So there are 4 basic styles: directors, thinkers, relators, socializers. So what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about each style. I'm going to do sort of a CNN summary here, and then I'll get into some more depth on each one. Let's start with the directors. Where are my directors? One more time. Can I see your hands, please? Directors. Okay. Directors, their key style, their key desire is results, bottom line. Their motto, I want it done right, I want it done now, or better yet, I want it done when? Yesterday. They're in a hurry for everything, juggling a lot of things at the same time and doing them well. If there's any style that is great, natural, in terms of being multitasking, it is the directors. They're great delegators. They're great administrators. They work best under pressure, under deadlines, and they play to win. Another motto for directors: winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. They do not play games for funsies. Oh, let's just play and have fun. Oh, let's not keep score. We don't need score. You know, they always want to know who's winning. Because they work so well under pressure and they're so multitasking oriented, I would think one of their great jobs would be a short order cook in a roadside diner, because they can handle anything thrown at them. Any order, no problem whatsoever. I will tell you this: of all 4 styles, the directors are the weakest listeners. I'm going to have to repeat that for them. They are the weakest listeners, but there's a reason. They don't have time, and they already know the answer. Why listen? So those are the directors. We'll get in more depth in just a little while. Let's talk a little bit about socializers. Where are my socializers? All right? Their key desire: fun, excitement, applause, visibility, recognition. And as a result, they talk a lot about their favorite subject: themselves. Generally speaking, socializers are generally speaking. They have the gift of gab, the power of persuasion. They have the ability to get other people more excited about their ideas than even they are themselves. They are the only group who could win an argument not knowing what they're talking about. They're positive thinkers. They have a sunny disposition. They do not like negativity or negative thinkers. They don't like negative people. And I will tell you, of all 4 styles, they pay the least attention to detail. Hey, as long as it's close, what does it matter? In the ballpark, best guesstimate. You know, you can ask a thinker. Ask a thinker, how much do you earn? Thinker might say $33,335.42. Ask a socializer, how much you earn? They say around $50,000, even though they earn $33,000. My mother, whenever she's out, she strikes up conversations with everybody, anybody, whether she's met them or not, knows them or not, doesn't matter what they look like. My mother talks to people. And she'll know everything about a person in 15 minutes. Everything. Because she asks very, she's out, she strikes up conversations with everybody, anybody, whether she's married, personal questions. Now, I'll tell you what really is interesting when I take her to a restaurant. That is something you need to experience. Because we go in a restaurant, and as we're being led to the table, my mother is saying stuff to everybody at these other tables who she does not know. Hey, how you doing? I hope you're enjoying yourself. Hey, that looks good. She'll just talk to people. And last time, she does this all the time, by the way. She stopped at a table, and she said, what are you eating? She said, are you here for some special occasion, or are you just going out to eat? The person said, I'm here for my birthday. She said, your birthday? How old are you? How old?
47.
47. Stand up. Stand up. She pulls up his glass and his spoon and bangs on it, gets everybody's attention and says, what's your first name?
Don.
Don is 47 today. Let's sing him happy birthday. Everybody's singing. Hey, sing! All right, so at the end of all this, she said, Don, sit down. Come on, what are you standing up for? She says, Don, introduce me to the woman you're with. You're?
Eileen.
Eileen. Hi, Eileen. Nice meeting you. Don, something was bothering me, and I wonder if you or Eileen can clarify this for me. Don, I noticed you had a wedding ring on, and Eileen, you didn't. Would one of you like to explain that to me? I've got time.
No, I only date married men.
So we eventually, and it's me saying, Mom, come on, I'm hungry. So we sit down, we order our meal, we're eating our appetizer, we get our main entree, and another couple gets seated next to us. We're on our entree now. My mother hears the person at this other table asking the waiter about certain items on the menu. And one of the items happened to be veal scallopini. And she said, excuse me, sir, were you just asking about the veal scallopini? It's good. It's good. I ordered it. It's good. Not as good as I make it at home, but it's good. I want you to have a good time tonight. Here, taste mine, make sure you like it. And she makes the guy eat it off of her fork. Off of her fork. Oh, yeah. What, do you think I have germs? Eat it! By the way, if you were in that restaurant and my mother carried on a conversation like one of these, how many of you would have enjoyed it? Can I see your hands? All right, that's either Italians or socializers. How many would feel uncomfortable with what my mother was doing? Can I see your hands? Many more. That's interesting. Fact of the matter is, my mother doesn't care. She's going to come up to your table whether you like it or not. Point is, my mother, and I think this is a very crucial point, my mother loves people. She really does. She is incredibly outgoing, as you could tell, and she really believes that the way she acts with people is out of love. She is not trying, it's not even in her frame of reference that she would make somebody feel uncomfortable. She's thinking she's making people feel comfortable. But what she's doing is treating people according to the golden rule. She's treating people the way she would like to be treated, not realizing that in her desire to make people feel comfortable, she actually is having the opposite effect on many people and making them feel stressed and uncomfortable. So, let's go to the next style. Relators. Where are my relators? Relators. Their key desire, harmony, safety, security, close one-to-one relationships. Of all four styles, relators are the most people-oriented. Loyal, reliable team members, the glue that holds a team or a relationship together. I'll tell you this, you show me a marriage where one of the people is a relator, and I will show you a long marriage. Not necessarily happy, but long. They are incredibly loyal people. They do not like to rock the boat. They do not like pushy, aggressive people. So they have a tendency at times to go along with things, even when they don't want to, because they don't want to speak up and, sort of rock the boat. Little things hurt their feelings. Now, they won't always tell you, they won't always show you. But when you hurt their feelings a little, and you get out of their sight, They pull out their little book, they turn to the page with your name on it, and add another check mark. Yeah. Thinkers. Where are my thinkers? Thinkers. Their key desire, order, accuracy, precision, perfection. Their motto, everything in its place and a place for everything. Their patron saint, Sergeant Joe Friday from Dragnet. Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. They're the great planners, problem solvers, organizers. They're great at creating systems. They're highly inventive people. And of all four styles, they're the most intellectual. Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Einstein, thinkers. So I'll tell you this, without a doubt, without a hesitation, you want something done right, give it to a thinker. But if you want it done on time, think again. Thinkers procrastinate getting finished until it's perfect. Four basic styles, ladies and gentlemen. Directors, thinkers, relators, socializers. They do things differently. They have their unique strengths and weaknesses. Now, I can take almost any activity and show you how each style will perform that activity ever so slightly different from the other three. Let's take an activity that all of us probably engage in every single month. The monthly checking account statement comes in. The day it comes in, who will balance it that day to the penny, no matter how long it takes? The thinker. The day it comes in, the director. They never have time. They look for somebody. Roxanne, I don't have the time, the patience for this. I notice you do yours every month. Would you do mine? I'll give you $20. 25 max. They try to delegate it to people. The day it comes in, the relator waits for that evening to balance it as a family bonding experience. Socializer, the day it comes in, they look at it. What is this? Throw it in a box, in a drawer. How can I be overdrawn? I still have checks left. Every style, as I said, every style has their inherent strengths and weaknesses. But here's an interesting perspective about weakness. Sometimes when you take a strength and use it too much, it actually can, in fact, become a weakness. I call it overextension of strengths. So, with directors, they tend to control too much. Their strength is taking control, taking the lead. But sometimes they over-control and turn people off. Thinkers, they question too much. And you start wondering, don't you trust me? You know, they get into all these minute questions. Relators, they agree too much. Socializers, they talk too much. Let's go even further. Management 101 basically says there are four basic skills every good manager of people, whether it's a manager of people in a business, even a manager of people in your own household, you should have four basic strengths. Four basic functions of management. Here's the irony. Each style masters one of those four strengths better than any other style. For instance, with directors, their mastery is controlling people, situations, processes. Thinkers, it's planning. They're the great planners. Relators, it's organizing, getting things all set up, organized, in the right order. And socializers, it's motivating people, getting people off the dime, motivated to want to do things. So, if you were putting a team together, what styles would you put on that team? All four. All four. Here's the unfortunate thing. Many businesses tend to hire people in the likeness of other people who are in the company. And it's a problem. I even did that. I had myself, my marketing person, and my secretary, all three of us, same style, socializers. We had a great time. How do they listen? Each style listens differently. With directors, they're very purposeful. If you're talking about something that they're interested in, they are all ears. And when you stop talking about something of interest to them, they are out of there. They actually will get up and walk out. They'll do other things. Thinkers are very analytical. Well, wait a second, wait a second. A little while ago you said this. Now you're saying that. Which is it? Relators are very empathic. How does that feel? I can't believe that happened. And what did you do? They get as much or more emotional about issues as you do. And socializers, they're very fickle. You know, 1 second they're like this. No, get out of here! When did... And then another minute they're like this. No, I'm listening, I'm listening. They're in and out, whether it's purposeful or not. What do they fear? This is important to understand, because this turns them off. Directors fear being taken advantage of. As soon as they feel that you are taking advantage of them, you are crossed off their list. That is it. You're done. Thinkers, criticizing their effort. They do not like criticism. Sudden changes for the relators. They don't like a lot of big sudden change. So what you have to do is break it up over a period of time. You know, a little bit each day. And socializers, they do not like rejection, especially social rejection or ostracism, not being considered part of the group, being, you know, pushed out of a group. They do not like that. That's big, big, big fears. How they set goals. This is crucial. And this is something that you should focus on, how each of these styles set goals. One more time, how many of you have children? This is important also, understanding if you have more than one child, knowing how to work through this with them, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, how they set goals. Sometimes we ask our children to set goals, or we help them set goals by whose yardstick? Our own. We have to understand that they do things differently. So, with directors, they favor goals that are productive and inexpensive. And typically, directors favor a single overriding goal. They like to work on one goal. Let me achieve it, then I'll move on to another. They don't like a whole list of goals. One big one. Thinkers, they favor goals that promote growth, accuracy, quality. Relators, goals that open opportunities for everybody involved, not just for themselves. They like, you know, the whole group. Everybody has to be involved in the goal. And socializers, loosely defined goals. They don't want to be tied down, and they often change. No, I want to do that. How about that? No, that's better. That. How they make decisions. Now, this is crucial in selling, isn't it? Directors, decisive. What they want, give them 2 to 3 options with brief supporting analysis, and then who makes the decision? They do. Now, I realize that in selling, we have all of these different techniques of closing, etc., and one is called the assumptive close, where you are, or a forced choice close, where you're basically forcing the close or a decision on somebody. They'll kick you out. It will not work with them. I mean, a single closing technique will not work on all 4 styles, I will tell you that. They like options with analysis, and they make the decision. Thinkers, they're very analytical. Give me all of my options, not 2 or 3. If there's 5, if there's 7, I want all the options. And then I'm going to do an entire Ben Franklin balance sheet of pros and cons, analyze each one, and then the logic of the situation will dictate which is the best option. No emotion comes into this. It's pretty clear, black and white. Relators, collaborative. How many people are going to be affected by this decision? Well, let's get all of them here and find out how they feel about it. And let's make sure everybody's on the same page. And socializers are spontaneous. If it looks good, feels good, smells good, let's do it. But I will tell you this. You ever hear the saying that the easiest people to sell are salespeople? And one of the reasons is most salespeople, the majority of salespeople, are socializers. And it's not that salespeople are the easiest to sell. That actually is not accurate. Socializers are the easiest to sell. But here's the problem with socializers. They frequently buy before they're sold. Now let that sink in. They buy before they're sold. And when people buy before they're sold, what does it lead to? Buyer's remorse. Bringing things back, sending things back. Let's talk about compatibility. Which styles get along best and which styles have the most difficulty getting along? What would you think? I think everybody has different opinions here. All right, here's two quotes. I want you to finish them for me. Opposites. Birds of a feather. Which one is more accurate? All right, so we have two different opinions here. Both are accurate, but it depends on the situation. So let's talk about work, working on a task, a goal. Opposites attract. And why is that? At work, on a task, opposite styles get along best. And the reason is the strengths of one style compensate for the weaknesses of the other. So there's a balance. So what styles get along best? Thinker-relater, director-relater, socializer-relater. Do you see a pattern here? Everybody gets along with the relators. Everybody. Moderately compatible, thinkers with thinkers, relators with relators, socializers with thinkers, and the least compatible, two directors, because they're always butting heads with each other. They have their own goals and objectives, the ways they want to do things. Let's do it my way or the highway. Why would socializer be the lowest compatible group when it comes to work? Work. Come on. Hey, did you hear the one about? Style compatibility socially. Birds of a feather flock together. Like styles get along best in a social environment. So, notice, thinkers with thinkers, relators with relators, socializers with socializers. Wait a second. What's missing? Directors. They're still competing with each other, even socially. They don't even want to go out. I got work to do. But they're in the next group. Moderately compatible. And the least compatible, director, relator, socializer, thinker, are the diagonals. They have the least in common. All right, here's your pop quiz, ladies and gentlemen. I've taken you through a whole bunch of information, and I want to see how well you've assimilated it and how well you can project. So, what would you say is the ideal vehicle chosen by a socializer? Built for them. A convertible, a sports car, a Porsche, a Ferrari, Maserati, Corvette. What color? Red. Absolutely. Ideal vehicle for a relator. A minivan. Yeah, you can bring the family. Come on, we got room. Thinkers. Volvo. Volvo. Safe. Built well. Quality. Reliable. Ideal vehicle for a director. Get out of my way or I'm going to go right over you. By the way, let's take it another step. Every style has a theme song, a song that captures the essence of who they are and how they go about doing what they do. What would you say is a theme song chosen by over 90% of all directors?
And did it my way.
Oh, they love this song. They sit up a little straighter, puff out a little. Yeah, my way or the highway.
I've had my fill.
But only 90% choose that song. The other 10% feel it's too weak. They want something a little stronger. Ideal song for a thinker. So I usually don't get one. When I do, it's usually, well, opera, jazz, classical. Classical's the key. Could you imagine a thinker on a bad day, when all of their negatives come out? They question too much. They're more analytical. They're overly analytical. And they're called in to the local symphony. Symphony's losing money. So they call this analytical thinker in, who's a consultant. And they say to the analytical thinker, how could we make more money and make this symphony more profitable? So the thinker starts analyzing and over-analyzing.
I just completed this report. First of all, the orchestra seemed to be operating quite efficiently, but then on closer inspection, it became apparent that there was a lot of waste and inefficiency. The oboes, for example, were on stage throughout the entire piece, but they only played 10% of the time. The woodwinds frequently just repeated notes that had already been played. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. An obvious and clear duplication. Violins and violas, they could rarely even be heard above the din of the other instruments, and they could probably be done away with altogether. My calculations show that by getting rid of the unnecessary instruments and by cutting the running time of the piece by a third, substantial savings could be had not only in salaries, but in overhead expenses, lighting, heating, electricity, rental time for the auditorium, all sorts of things. The bottom line in this business is profit and loss, minimax, minimizing expenses and maximizing profits. If the symphony puts my study into effect, they'll have more people units seeing shorter music units, enjoying it more, it'll cost less, and their profits will be greater.
He's so proud. Ideal song for a relator. Feelings, right? You've got a friend. People. People who need people are the luckiest people in the whole world. But any song where they can put their arms around each other and sway back and forth, right? Kumbaya, right? Anything like that. Where are my relators? Relators, come on. Oh, they love that stuff. They love participation. And of course, of all four styles, nobody loves love songs more than the relators. So it just stands to reason that their favorite artist, or one of their favorite artists, would be... They get a little embarrassed. Then they lean over and say, you know, I really do like him. Ideal song for a socializer. How many want to dance right now? Yeah. Okay. Let us go into our last section here before break, and that is, how do you practice adaptability with each style? So let's talk about directors. With directors, key thing is making sure that you understand and support and reinforce their goals and objectives. Another thing is to keep the relationship businesslike. Don't get chummy with them. You know, get right to the point, bottom line it with them. What you want to do is provide, as I mentioned before, options with brief supporting analysis so that they can make a quick decision. And above all else, treat them rapidly. This is a crucial point. Now listen to this. One of the worst things you can do with a director is build up to the point. They do not want that. Whatever the key point is, you say it. Sales are down 32%. And here's why. And then you know, they want you to hit them right between the eyes, and if they have other stuff that they need to know, whereas with thinkers, you do the exact opposite. You are building up with the points to the key. All right? So, how about thinkers? Some of the things to focus on with thinkers. Actions, not words. I'm from Missouri. Don't tell me, show me. They don't care about your opinion, other people's opinions. They want to see it in writing. Be systematic, exact, prepared. All right, don't go in and try to wing it with them. You might get away with that with socializers, but you will definitely get slapped down when it comes to thinkers. Anytime you are presenting something to them, list the advantages as well as the obvious disadvantages. And I'll tell you why the obvious. I'm not saying to list out all the disadvantages, but certainly the obvious disadvantages. Because if they're obvious, do you think that the thinkers will find them? Yeah. And if they find them and you didn't tell them, that is, to them at least, a lie of omission. A lie of omission means you cannot be trusted. Kiss that sale goodbye. Provide proofs, guarantees, and put it in writing. They don't want your word. They want it in writing. And above all else, treat them precisely. Relators. Key thing, make sure you show personal interest and listen to them. Remember, they are the best listeners. They want reciprocity here. They want to see how well you listen to them. Give them time to trust you. They're not going to make a key decision. They're not going to buy something until they trust you. That's a key. Provide guarantees and personal assurances. Now, with thinkers, you've got to put it in writing. With relators, it's just your word. I'll tell you one thing that really, really works with relators. After a sale, even before the sale, you say to them, look, if anything goes wrong, I want you to know my company will stand behind the product, but more than my company, I stand behind the product. And pull out your business card, you give the business card. Here's my business card. Give it back to me for a second. Write down your personal home phone number. Here's my home phone number. Now, I want you, if you cannot get me at the office, if you cannot get what you need at my office, whether it's me or somebody else, I want you to call me at home. Anytime, day or night, you call me at home. 3 o'clock in the morning, call me at home. I am the one who's going to take care of you personally. Now, what would that do for relators? They're just going, whoa, whoa. Now, never, ever do that with directors. Because they will call you at 3 in the morning, just out of spite. Above all else, treat them friendly. Socializers. Key thing with socializers, support their ideas and dreams. Sometimes they are way out there, but don't criticize, shoot them down, say that's impossible, that's ridiculous. Summarize in writing. Who is to do what, when, where, how, and why. Do not just verbally agree to things, because a week later you'll say, I did my part, did you do yours? They say, do what? Now, I never said that. Use testimonials and incentives to positively affect their decisions. They love stories of triumph, other people using your product or service and having incredible results with it. But above all else, treat them dynamically. Let me summarize. One word per style. This you can take to the bank. If you just remember this word, it will double your adaptability. No matter what you're doing, whether it's sales, service, one-to-one communicating, it doesn't matter. If you're doing any of these activities with a relator, I'm asking you to treat them friendly, with warmth, with feeling, with sincerity. With thinkers, whatever you do, make sure you do it precisely and accurately. Here's a rule of thumb. Whenever you are dealing with thinkers, which tend to be one of the toughest, if not the toughest style to sell, here's how you will improve your results dramatically. Whatever you do, if you're doing it with a thinker, make sure it is well planned, well organized, and well documented. You do that, you got them. With directors, whatever you do it and get out. And if you're going to give them anything in writing, how many pages? 1, that is it. Fit it on a single page. Socializers, whatever you do, make it an event. A little bit more playful, more verbal give and take. Now, let me tell you what we're going to do when we come back from break. When we come back from break, I'm going to talk about selling specifically. And how many of you, just one more time, are in the business of either getting or keeping customers. Can I see your hands? Getting and or keeping customers. You do not want to miss the second half because I have very specific tools on how to get and keep customers. I learned many years ago that there's a big difference between making a sale and making a customer. Now, I learned that on my first full-time sales job in 1966. It was a long time ago. I was working my way through college, figured the best way to earn money for tuition, etc., was to go out and sell. Now, not just sell, but sell on 100% commission door to door. Now, I did not have a good career counselor back then, so the product that I chose was a little unusual. I was selling cookware, pots and pans, door to door. Now, I know a lot of people complain about their products and the price being so high or competitors being lower priced. But put this into perspective. In 1966, I was selling a 10-piece set of cookware for $300. It gets worse. 4 of the pieces were lids. There were just 6 pots. But in my first 9 weeks, went out and sold over $11,000 worth of cookware, counting my commissions, sales contest winnings, bonus. I was making more than my father, more than most of my friends' parents. So by anybody's definition, I should have felt good, right? But something was wrong. Couldn't identify it back then, couldn't put my finger on it, but something wasn't right. Now, back then, we were taught when we went out and did our sales presentation to give a canned, memorized presentation, verbatim, word for word, couldn't deviate a word. We were taught, contrary to what was being taught back then, we were taught never ever ask for referrals immediately after you make the sale. Instead, we were taught as soon as you make the sale, get out before they change their mind. My target market, single women between the ages of 18 and 21 who were working full-time. I was 19 at the time, and I was working on my double prospecting system, but that's a whole other story. But I think it was when I delivered the cookware and I asked for referrals. And the response that I got that gave me this feeling something wasn't right. So, what's your first name?
Dana.
Dana. It's my daughter's first name. Dana. All right, so Dana, let's make believe that I'm delivering the cookware. You don't have to say or do anything, but I'm delivering the cookware to Dana. This is exactly verbatim, even choreographed. You know, they had these little things, you know, what I'm supposed to do as I'm saying these words. So this is exactly what I did. And you tell me if something doesn't feel right or sound right. Dana, what I want you to do, go get your appointment book. You and I were going to sit down. We're going to go through it page by page. And you're going to give me the names of all your friends who you believe should take advantage of the same opportunity you yourself took. Now, notice how I asked. I did not ask, Dana, do you have a book? No. Nor did I ask, Dana, would you please get the book? No. This was Jersey. Dana, get the book. Let's sit down. Now, invariably, Dana, people like Dana, they'd look at me, and their first response would be, I can't get the book. I would say, what do you mean you can't get the book? You don't have a book? She'd say, yeah, I have a book, Tony. I know a lot of people. It's not that I can't get the book. I won't get the book. You won't get the book? What does that mean, you won't? She said, I won't get the book, Tony, because I don't want you to do to my friends what you did to me. She looked me right in the eye and said, Tony, you sold me. That's what I was supposed to do. That's what I was taught to do. Did it pretty well. But the way she said it had a very different meaning, didn't it? You sold me. People love to buy. Never, ever want to feel that they've been sold. When they feel they've been sold, they feel they've been had, taken. I was taught to do. Did it pretty well. But the way she said it, advantage of. And this happened over and over and over again. After a while, I decided I could not sell the cookware anymore. I naively believed that the problems I was experiencing were not the result of the approach that I was taking, but the product I was selling. So what did I do? Instead of changing my approach, I changed my product. So I started selling mausoleums. I needed a counselor. Did that for 1 year till I ran out of prospects. Sold life insurance for a year. Sold burglar and fire alarms for a year. Until I finally got it. Wasn't the products, because I was getting the same results. It was my approach. I finally realized in the early 70s that maybe, instead of changing the products, maybe I should change my approach. So I started looking for another approach to selling, an approach that made me feel good about what I was doing, made me feel proud about what I was doing, but more importantly, made my customers feel comfortable about what I was doing. Now, in 1979, all of that research led to my first book, which was called Non-Manipulative Selling. Now, over the years, I changed the title. Today, I call it Collaborative Selling. Non-manipulative selling was too difficult to pronounce, so today it's collaborative selling. But here's what I realized. In doing all my research, I realized that anybody who is in the business of getting or keeping customers. By the way, just out of curiosity, how many of you fall into that category? Your responsibility in your job is either to get and or keep customers. Can I see your hands? All right, good. So I have plenty of people in here. I realized that anybody in the business of getting and keeping customers has to go through a series of steps before they get to the ultimate position in terms of a relationship with their customers or clients. Now again, anybody in sales knows that the very first step that you have to do is to find a prospect. How many of you actually prospect? Can I see your hands? All right, how many of you actually do cold calls? Can I see your hands? How many like cold calls? A lot fewer. A lot fewer. So here's the issue. In prospecting, there's a whole series of skills that we need to develop to master appropriate, effective prospecting. I call them marketing skills. All of those things that you do to uncover prospects and eventually get in front of them. Now, when I was selling, everything was activity. You know, go out, call on as many people as you can, and through the law of averages, through percentages, you're going to get some appointments and you're going to make some sales. It wasn't working smarter necessarily, it was just simply working harder. So I would be calling on all these prospects, whether they had a need or not, whether they were profitable or not, whether they had whether they were doing business with one of my competitors or not. It did not matter. We just called on everybody and anybody. Quantity was the key. But today, and probably even back then, that is really not the way to sell, is it? In prospecting, what we want to do is call on the best prospects, the primo prospects, at least initially, until we run out of those. Now, how many of you are familiar with a concept called Pareto's Principle? Anybody? Pareto's Principle? What is it? 20-80 rule. 20-80 rule. Now, the 20-80 rule basically says, in general, 20% of our customers give us 80% of our revenue, or 20% of our customers give us 80% of our profit. 20% of our products give us 80% of our sales. 20% of our products give us 80% of our profit. 20% of the salespeople in an organization make 80% of the sales. I mean, we can go on and on. So here is the key, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to prospecting. I would like you to look into your customer database and identify, however you want, who the top 20% is. It could be profitability, it could be volume, it could be ease of selling, it could be a certain category of needs that they might have, it could be that they're pleasant to do business with, it could be customer retention, however you want to define it. But when you come up with your top 20%, I want you to paint a picture, write it down, of what these people might have in common. What is it about these top 20% that I could use in my prospecting efforts so that when I go out and prospect, I want to prospect initially, primarily, maybe even solely, for new prospects who fit the profile of the top 20%. Does that make sense? We want to look for new prospects who fit the profile of the top 20%. Now, by the way, the 20-80 rule works the exact opposite way, too. 20% of our customers give us 80% of our grief and aggravation. How many of you believe that? How many of you have at least one customer, at least one, that you'd rather not have? You have that? I'd like to fire that person. You know, too often we have focused so much on increasing the number of customers we have. We have focused too much on market share, not enough on profitability. I'm in business for myself, and I learned early, thank goodness I learned early, that there is a big difference, ladies and gentlemen, big difference between gross and net. What would you rather have? Right? If you're a business person, you want net. Net's more important than gross. No question about it. I want profitability. I don't want money-losing, whining, complaining customers. Now, there are businesses today that are actually looking at their customers and saying, you know what? All customers are not created equal. Some are better than others. Some are worse than others. And in fact, the ones where we are losing money, the ones where we are spinning our wheels, the ones that are complaining, the ones that are abusing our employees. You ever have a customer that abused employees? So what they did is they decided that they were going to look at this bottom 20% and cut a bunch of them out. Now, you've heard this whole category about rating your prospects, grading your prospects, A, B's, and C's, right? A is the top 20%, B maybe the middle 60% or so, C the bottom 20%. What they did is they went to the bottom 20%, and they decided that they didn't use, by the way, A, B, and C. They used, they categorized them internally. They do not want this to go out. That's why I'm not mentioning the company name. They don't want this public. But internally, they use their own categorization system. Instead of A, B, C, they used the title from that old Clint Eastwood movie. What was it? The good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, they wanted to keep and nurture. The bad, they wanted to keep and grow. The ugly, they wanted nothing to do with. But I'll tell you this, they didn't just go out and fire the ugly. What they did, and I think this is a great philosophy, they went to the people who were money-losing, whining, complaining customers, and they gave them the opportunity to change. To change to make it a win-win. To change to make it profitable. To change so that they would move up into the B category. Those that refused, they fired. They removed discounts. They made it difficult. In fact, they made it so difficult for these customers that many of the customers simply quit. But the ones that they fired, talk about a great, that was a great financial strategy, but talk about a great competitive strategy. When they fired the customers, they gave them the name and phone number of their biggest competitor. Hey, keep them busy with these people. But the key here, ladies and gentlemen, you want to make more sales, you want to make more profit, you want to have better customer retention, find better prospects. That's where it begins. Now, once we have a prospect and we have approached the prospect, we go into the next stair. And the next stair is the actual face-to-face selling process. Now, I have been a sales trainer. I have trained salespeople as a sales manager, as a college prof, as a professional speaker and sales trainer since 1970. And I will tell you, when it really comes to face-to-face selling, there are only 3 steps. We could tell you there's 7, there's 12, there's, you know, whatever, but there really are only 3 in face-to-face selling. Step number 1 needs analysis. A needs analysis, finding out problems and opportunities on the part of the customer. Step number 2, solutions. Coming up with a product or products and services that will either solve the problem that they have or seize an opportunity for them. See, all customer needs pretty much fall into one of 2 categories. And as you're doing your information gathering, please remember this. Very simple. You're looking in a needs analysis. Number 1, problems that you can help them solve. Number 2, opportunities that you can help them seize. Simple as that. All information you gather, a problem or an opportunity. Third step, what is it? Pretty obvious. We have the needs, we have the solutions, closing. Closing, or getting commitment and implementation. Closing is really a 2-step process, and that is commitment and implementation. And I'll tell you, one without the other, no good. Now you may say, hey, if I get implementation, that's great. I don't need commitment. Well, implementation without commitment leads to buyer's remorse. We don't want that. How about commitment without implementation? Hey, Dana, I love your product, I love you, I love the company, and I'm going to buy someday. You ever have that? We need both. So basically, it's needs analysis, solution, and closure. And by the way, I believe selling is incredibly easy. Making a sale, one of the easiest things you can do. Now, not everybody agrees with me, but I'll tell you this. Here's how easy it is to make sales. All you have to do, overpromise, underdeliver. How many sales can you make? A lot of sales. How many second-time sales to the same person? Probably none. Which now brings us to the third of 4 stairs, and that is repeat customers. You want to get a repeat customer? It's better, instead of overpromising and underdelivering, to do what? Underpromise and overdeliver. That's what you want to do. Here, in building repeat customers, what we do is we rely on a set of service skills. And I can simplify this. You want repeat customers? Consistently exceed their expectations. How many of you have heard that? You have to exceed the customer's expectations? You've heard that? Let me tell you a problem. In order to do that consistently and effectively, there are 3 things you have to do first. Number 1, identify what those expectations are. Customer by customer by customer. Different customers have different expectations. Would you agree? Number 2, manage it. Sometimes customers have unrealistically high or low expectations. Now, if a customer has unrealistically low expectations, you might say, that's a no-brainer, that's good. But it's not. And why is it not good when a customer has too low expectations? Because anybody can meet them. Lower cost, lower quality competitors can meet low expectations. We don't want low expectations. We want them high enough that our competitors can't hit them, but low enough that we can't, which means sometimes customers have unrealistically high expectations. And as good as you might be, as many hoops as you jump through, if they have unrealistically high expectations, you cannot meet them. Have you ever run into an experience where a customer had unrealistic expectations? We want to monitor how well we're doing on an ongoing basis. You ever think about how a guided missile works? Do you realize that a guided missile, one of these super smart missiles, are never on target until they hit the target? If you watch what it does, it's constantly going like this. It's constantly correcting, immediate feedback, correcting until it hits its target. And what we need to do is constantly be monitoring how well we're doing with our customers. Make it easy for customers. Make it non-threatening for customers to tell you when they have a problem, a complaint, a concern, because I think it is an incredible disservice when a customer has a problem and they don't tell you, because they never give you the opportunity to correct it, make it good, to keep them in the fold. I use an analogy here of a red phone. I worked with a company many years ago, fast food chain. Fast food chain. They were having a lot of customer complaints, and it wasn't getting resolved. The president got disgusted with it and decided, I'm going to solve it myself. He put a telephone on the counter of every single fast food restaurant. Telephone didn't even have buttons on it, one of these super secret telephones. And it said on a big sign above the telephone, dear customer, if you have a problem at this restaurant that is not resolved to your satisfaction, please pick up the phone. It will ring on the desk of the president, and the president will resolve your problem. So he installs all these phones all over the southeast in his restaurants. Doesn't get a single phone call for 2 weeks. He thinks that the phone company made a mistake in the installation. And he found out that that wasn't the case. Here's what he did find out. Here's why he wasn't getting any calls. You're the manager of the restaurant, and a customer is reaching for the phone. They were jumping over the counter to solve the customer's problem so they would not pick up that phone. So we want to identify, manage, and monitor expectations, and if we do that, we will consistently exceed them. And when you exceed a customer's expectations, you create a moment of magic. When you fall short, a moment of misery. Now, a lot of people, if they could get up to that third step, they would say, I have made it. That's repeat business. That's referrals. But I think that there is a higher step. And that step is called apostle. An apostle. What is an apostle? We don't have many apostles, I'll tell you that. In our customer base, there's not a lot, but I'll bet just about everybody has at least one. An apostle is a raving fan, a business advocate, somebody who is out there in the marketplace preaching the gospel for you. Incredible word of mouth. They're like an unpaid salesperson who is helping you. Now, you don't have to ask them for referrals. What do? They send it to you. How many of you have at least one apostle that you can identify just like this? One apostle. And what value would you put on apostles? Priceless. Priceless. You build apostles through your relationship skills. One-to-one, one at a time, a lot of attention, a lot of nurturing. Now, I'm going to show you a strategy that you can create more apostles. Before I show you the strategy, let me ask you this. How many of you have a written plan, step-by-step action plan, on how you will increase the number of apostles that you have each and every year? You have it written down, and it's step-by-step action plan. Can I see your hands? All right. 2 people, which is 2 more than this morning. Because most audiences, I don't care how big the audience is, I rarely see a single hand go up. And the reason is, we know apostles are priceless. We love apostles. We wish we had more of them. And we just think that they happen. They either happen or they don't. You can create apostles. Now, I'm going to show you something, and I guarantee you that all the time and money you invested to be here tonight, this one idea will pay it back 1,000-fold. But you need to go back and do it. And herein is the big problem. Unfortunately, many of you will not. You'll say that's a great idea, and you'll go back and you'll get back into the routine of things, and you won't put this into play. By the way, you don't need many apostles to have a significant, sustainable impact in your marketplace. Significant, sustainable. How many apostles do you think you need? It's not a lot. How many? 12. There's a good number. I don't know what that number means. Has a good ring to it. 12 apostles. That's what I want you to shoot for. 12 apostles. Significant, sustainable impact. You only need 12. That's it. Now here's my plan for you. However many apostles you have today, let's say you have 3. Right? And by the way, you may think you have 3, but I bet many of you do not. A true apostle. I've been in business 30 years as a speaker. I probably don't have many more than 12, because it takes work. It takes work to build apostles, and it takes work to keep apostles. And many people don't want to put in the time and effort. But it pays back in immense dividends. And here's how simple this is. This is as simple as it gets. You ready for this? Here's how you create more apostles. Number one, I want you to write down the names of all your apostles. And again, I'd be surprised if many of you had more than 4, 5, 6. 6, I would be shocked. Real apostles. I'm not talking about good customers. I'm talking about apostles. People are out there just preaching the gospel for you. Number two, I want you to look at the names of those apostles that you write down, and then I want you to write out a list of things that you do with those apostles that you might not do with your other customers, or things you do with those apostles that you do with other customers, but you do more of it and you do it better with your apostles. Now, what do you think that might be? Now, I want to show you how this works, because there's a little catch here. So those of you who have apostles, if you were going to write one thing down that you do with your apostles that you might not do with any of your other customers, or you do it better or more with your apostles than you do your other, what would that be? What would you write down on that list? Anybody? Communicate. All right, now, I was hoping I'd get something like that. All right? Here's why I asked for this, because I knew I'd get something general. I communicate with them. All right? Now, that's important, but watch what we're going to do here. I want somebody looking at this list. Another person in your company looks at this list and they say, I communicate with them. What would they do? What does that mean, I communicate with them? Is that open to interpretation? Yes. How do I communicate? How often do I communicate? What mode of communication do I use? Now, so let's get specific. I'm looking for something that I write down that somebody else could look at for the very first time and say, I know exactly what to do. It's spelled out right there. So let's go back to, I communicate with them. Give me a specific. Family. So you get involved with them in family-related activities? Okay. Now that's, so what he's saying is with apostles, he actually gets involved in family-related activities with the apostles. So if it's a child's graduation, if it's a birthday, it's an anniversary, you may celebrate it with them. So they're probably also friends too, aren't they? There's a social aspect here. All right, so I could write that down and somebody can say, oh, all right, now I know that with apostles I am doing specific social things that celebrate events in the lives of those people, whether it's birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, whatever. Okay, that is what I'm looking for. Give me another one. Yes?
After they give me a referral, I call them and let them in all the positives of that.
Okay, so
Whether they ask me to or not.
okay, so what she's saying is after they give her a referral, she calls them back and gives them the lowdown on everything that happened, positive, negative, results, success, failure. Okay, now, I'm going to say that that is something you should do with everybody, not just your apostles. You should do that with everybody, because you're going to get a lot more referrals that way. But, okay, but it is something that is very specific, and I thank you for it. Anything else? One more, ladies and gentlemen, all the way up there. You take them to seminars. Do you have one with you? All right. Are you an apostle? Take them to seminars, educational activities. All right, so these are the types of things that I want you to write down there. As many as possible. Now here's the last step. Last step. I have my apostles. I have what I do with them in as much specificity as possible. And then third and final, I want to write out a list of current customers that you can turn into apostles. Now, here's the catch. However many apostles you have written down, let's say you have written down 4, I want you to write down twice as many customers, like 8. If you have 5 apostles, you're going to write 10. If you have 3 apostles, you're going to write 6. I do not want you to get carried away and write down 20 if you have 3 apostles. It's going to fail. It's going to overwhelm you. All I'm asking you to do is however many apostles you write down, put down twice as many current customers, good customers, who, if nurtured the right way, can be converted to apostles. So, with the names of these customers, what are you going to do with them? You're going to do more of the stuff up there. The things that you do with your current apostles, you're now going to do with these targeted good customers who you want to convert to apostles. And here's what I'm telling you. You will convert, guaranteed, half of them. So in the next 2 to 3 years, if you do this, each and every year, you'll double the number of apostles that you have. If you start with 3 in 2 years, guess how many you'll have? 12. 3 years, you start with 2, you're going to have more than 12. You'll have 16. But that is a specific plan. And by the way, this should all be done on a single sheet of paper. You put it in a page protector, and you have it where you see it. Let's talk about several components of customer loyalty, all right? Building value for the customer, that's number 1. Creating a perception of difference is number 2. Number 3 is selling several different products. Number 4 is exceeding customer expectations. And 5 is building an emotional attachment. 5 ways that you can build more customer retention, more customer loyalty, and apostles. Now I'm going to go through this quickly and watch. First of all, how do you build value for the customers? By understanding a bedrock concept of collaborative selling. And here it is. In selling, as in medicine, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Anybody who attempts to sell a solution to a customer before fully understanding the customer's needs from the customer's point of view is engaging in sales malpractice. All the information that you gather from your customers will fall into one of 2 categories. Problems that you can help them solve, or opportunities that you can help them seize. As you're doing your needs analysis, ladies and gentlemen, put the information that you gather into one of those 2 categories. Hey, here's a problem I can help them solve. Here's an opportunity I can help them seize. Problem, opportunity. As you're gathering information, there's key pieces of information that you should be uncovering. What is the customer doing now, and what should they or could they be doing? The difference between what they should be doing and what they currently do is called the need gap. Crucial aspect in selling, crucial concept, the need gap. If what they're doing now and what they think they should be doing are pretty close to each other, very small need gaps, very small need gap, what's the likelihood they're going to take action? Not much. What they're doing now versus what they should be doing, if there's a big difference, a big need gap, what's the likelihood they're going to take action now? Pretty big. So your goal as a salesperson is to make them ask the questions that make them discover for themselves that what they're doing right now is not what they should be doing, and make them raise their sights and goals and objectives that there is something better they can be doing. The bigger the need gap, more likely they're going to take action. We want to find out what are their relevant past experiences dealing with our company, dealing with our competitors, dealing with a product or service such as the one that we sell, and were they positive or negative experiences. We want to find out who the decision makers are, especially if it's business-to-business selling, and what the decision-making process is. How do you go about making a decision such as this in your home, in your business? We want to find out what our competitive exposure is. For instance, if they're only talking to us and nobody else, you would sell one way. But if they're talking to you and your competitors, you would sell a bit differently, wouldn't you? So, crucial to understand your competitive exposure. What are their expectations? How will they judge 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road whether or not doing business with you, doing business with your company, buying your product or service, 3, 6, or 12 months down the road was the right decision? How will they measure that? And what's their time and budget constraints? Let's talk about how you create a perception of difference in the mind of the customer. Again, if there is competitive exposure, ladies and gentlemen, you need to know how you stack up against the competition. What are your advantages? In other words, what can you offer to your customers that your competitors can't and that your customers value? And what are the disadvantages that you have? And you do that for your major competitors, competitor A, B, C, D, whoever the major competitors are. One at a time, you want to say, here's how we have an edge over them, which is a selling point, and here's a disadvantage that we have. Disadvantages you can send back up to your manager or corporate, and hopefully some of these disadvantages can be corrected. Others can't. Sometimes you have what we may call a systemic disadvantage. It cannot be changed. For instance, your major competitor has been in business 20 years. Your company has only been in business 3 years. Not much you can do to change that. But there are ways that we can twist a perceived disadvantage into an advantage. And you can learn from a defense attorney on this one. Whenever an attorney is defending somebody who has something in their background that might negatively affect the way a jury looks at this person, what would a good defense attorney do? Wait for the prosecutor to bring it up? No, not at all. They bring it up, because if you bring it up in the best possible light. So if the competitor has 20 years, you have 3 years, you don't wait. You bring it up. One of the advantages that we bring to the table is that we are a new company. We're a new company, but we have a lot of experience with our top execs. But a company that is built on new technology, new platform, fresh ideas, as opposed to some of the other companies who have been around seemingly forever, and they're kind of stuck in an old mentality. We never mention company names, but we bring up and we put a positive spin on it. Now, what about products bought from you? What we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is cross-sell as many products and services as possible. And here's why. The more products a person buys from you, the less likely they will take their business elsewhere. Here's a rule of thumb. Anybody in here from a bank? Anybody from bank, savings and loan, all right, credit union? Here's an interesting thing that we learned many, many years ago. When a customer buys only a single product from the bank, checking, savings, loan, credit card, whatever it is, only one product, there's a 50% chance that within 12 months they'll take their business elsewhere. But if you can sell them two different products, instead of a 50% chance of losing the customer, it drops to 10%. 3 products, 5%. 4 products, 3%. So the more products you sell, it's almost like putting golden handcuffs on the customer. It's harder for them to get out the more products they have. So not only do you make more money, more profit by selling more products, but you actually create more customer retention. I believe that what we need to do is, if you want to create apostles, you want to create long-term loyal customers, you must create an emotional attachment. People do business with people they like. You will pay more money to do business with somebody that you like and trust. Even though you can get it elsewhere cheaper, you will actually pay a little bit more to deal with somebody you like and trust. How many of you feel that you actually do that? There's value in the relationship. So what I'm asking you to do is simply, number one, increase the quantity of communication that you have with your customers. I believe the buyer-seller relationship is not unlike a marriage, in that the more communication, the stronger the bond. The less communication, the weaker the bond. That was borne out by a survey where they asked recently divorced couples. A divorced couple is almost like a customer saying, I'm not going to do business with you anymore.